Hi, Kelsey. First of all, I'd like to say how I enjoyed reading your paper. There are a lot of different elements of writing that we need to teach, and I'm glad that you chose the topic of sentence fragments. As I was reading your author's agenda, did I choose the right audience for my topic? I think you did. I think teachers are would be the ideal topic or ideal audience for this particular topic. What might have been a better audience, I think you can also use this paper for your students. You've given a lot of examples that I think they would benefit from. The tone, I think, depending on what grade level you teach, could apply to students. But overall, I think anybody who's working on writing, literacy specialists, reading specialists, I think they would benefit from your paper too. Anyone who's helping students become better writers. You did present a lot of evidence in your paper. One point that you made that I thought was very, very strong was right here, the sentence, we should be embedding our grammar lessons into our writing instruction. One reason for this is it takes care of two things at a time. We can work on writing and grammar. They are applying this knowledge to their writings and improving it overall, talking about your students. I think this is very, very important because if students, we can teach all day long, but if students don't apply it, then they're not going to remember it, and they're not going to know how to use it. Katie Ray mentioned in one of the chapters how we need to teach our students to write like writers, which you mentioned right here, and I think that is very important too. In my classroom, when we're reading books and students see a sentence that something in a sentence that I've told them not to use, like, for example, starting a sentence with but, I always tell them don't start a sentence with but then they see it in a book or they see it in something they read and they're like, well, how come this author was able to do it? And I think it's important that we teach them how to write like writers. I also like how in your paper here at the end you wrote, if you have any further questions about our next steps or more about the research, you can ask me or consult the author. I think this is important because if you were speaking with your fellow teachers or in an SBDM group or maybe in a faculty group, you definitely want them to feel like you can contact you with this information, that you're knowledgeable and that you can teach them about this information. And if you don't have the answers that someone may be, or the answers to the questions someone may answer, you should definitely have at least a resource to guide them to, which you did right here by guiding them to this this article. You have a lot of resources to back up your information, which I think is makes your paper strong. Let's see. Overall, like I said, I think this was interesting because I definitely was not expecting to read anything of this type of paper, and I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad you focused on sentence fragments because, like you said, it's something that we usually steer our students away from, but then you gave that example of the student who wrote, who incorporated it in their paper and just made their paper a lot stronger. Good job, Kelsey.